This is Crabbe's Journal 5, and we're reading Crabbe by William Bell. The club at about 8. Since they seldom returned before 1 or 2, I figured I had lots of time. As I left, I was enjoying the last bath I'd have in a long time. When Cook slammed the back door, I was packing my toothbrush. As soon as it was dark, I began. From the room above the garage, a wooden staircase descends to the back patio, and behind the stairs is a door into the garage. It's kind of hard to get at because the stairs were put in after the garage was built. They were a fire escape from my room. The city made my parents put it in when they had the room over the garage built so I could have my own turf. I began to move the gear from the hiding places, hauling it downstairs in the dark, into the garage, and into the back of our station wagon. Within an hour, I had all the stuff transferred. It was almost 10 o'clock when I started on the canoe. This was tricky. The boat was kept on two sawhorses behind the garden shed at the foot of the yard between the shed and a high cedar hedge. The whole plan rested on my being able to get out of the neighborhood without anyone seeing that canoe, so I had to work in the dark. First, I turned out the lights of all the rooms along the back of the house. The yard was now good and dark. Then I went to the tool shed, slipped behind, and tried to lift the canoe from the horses. Graceful creature that I am, I lost my balance and fell, knocking over the sawhorses, and ended up pinned between the shed and the canoe. I was sure the clatter and bang woke the world. I lay there for 5 minutes, breathing quietly, straining for sounds of alarm or roving neighbors or suspicious detectives in creased raincoats carrying big, shiny flashlights. Nothing stirred. Dragging myself out of the trap, I grabbed one edge of the canoe and I dragged it from the space between the shed and the hedge. Once clear of the sawhorses and pieces of lumber, it slipped easily on its bottom over the damp grass. I put it down and went back quickly to right the sawhorses and haul the tarp over them. As an afterthought, I took some butt ends of lumber and propped them up under the tarp. It looked as if the canoe was still there. Pleased with this ruse, I picked up one end of the canoe and began half lifting, half dragging it across the 60 or so feet of grass to the patio. I had to hoist it completely off the ground then so it wouldn't scrape on the flagstones. I confess, I'm not good at lifting things. I'm skinny, gangly, and not strong, but I don't think even Hercules could get 16 feet of fiberglass canoe behind a staircase and through the door of the garage. I couldn't do it. I pulled, pushed, swore, lifted, yanked, begged. No dice. My only other choice was to lug the thing around to the front of the house through the big garage doors, but that was too risky. So I tried again. I hauled the front of the canoe to the top of the doorway and jammed it into the top of the door jamb. The rear point was wedged into the angle where the stairs hit the patio. Great. Not only did the thing look ridiculous, I couldn't move it at all. Now, cursing, I kicked the damn thing, and it broke free of its perch, bow first, and thundered to the ground, half in the door, half out, knocking over the garbage pail and setting up a pounding clamor. I quickly went into the garage, not easy because I had to climb over the boat, and dragged the boat in. I closed the door and held my breath. 15 minutes later, I had the roof racks attached to the wagon. Getting the canoe on top was a strain. I found that swearing helped a whole bunch. By the time I had it tied down securely with big lumpy knots I guessed would hold, it was almost midnight, and the last minute I remembered the paddles might come in handy. I was almost ready to go. I just climbed into the station wagon to check the route to Ithaca Camp on the road map for the thousandth time, and was straining to see by the interior light when I heard a sound that chilled my blood. A car was pulling into the driveway. My parents had come home early. Car had pulled in the driveway. My parents had come home early. Quickly slamming the wagon door, I rolled onto the floor just in time because the electric door on the other side of the garage began to grind open, allowing the yellow white light from the headlights to splash into the darkness of the garage and throw eerie shadows up the walls and across the ceiling. I lay looking up at the roof of the wagon as if the harder I stared, the safer I was. My heart's pounding roared in my ears. If they so much as glanced at the wagon with that big red canoe on top, I was sunk. The long black rocket like car my father drives growled into the garage. The engine quit, the lights disappeared, the garage door clunked shut. There was a moment of dead quiet, and then doors opened and shut, echoing. Feet scraped and clicked on the cement floor. The sound was distant, hollow. They were tired voices. I don't want to talk about it anymore. The kid's going to have to work this all out for himself. I'm sick of the whole issue. It goes on and on. Do you want the lights on? No, I can find my way. It's easy for you to say, very easy. But you don't have to watch him flush his life down the drain. Because that's what he'll do if we let him. He's not going to university. You know that, don't you? Well, what do you mean I don't have to watch him? I'm his father, for Christ's sake. The door to the house opened and closed again, muffling their voices. My heartbeats continued to leap all over the inside of my body for a few minutes. I was sweating through my shirt and surprised to find I was breathing quickly, but I was safe. I sat up in the front seat of the car. I would be behind schedule because I couldn't leave for another couple hours now. That would mean I did some quick calculation. I'd arrived near Ithaca Camp just about dawn, early enough to be under the cover of darkness, but too late to set out across the lake. So I'd have to hide in the bush near the river for 24 hours. I sat back in the seat and waited. I felt good on the long journey north, sort of free. It didn't take long to get out of the city and away from the lights, and pretty soon I was sifting along in the darkness in a moving cave, cowboy music on the radio, and wind singing in the ropes that held the canoe on. Well, I was almost happy. And that's the end of chapter 5 or journal 5.